This is Sarah, and I'm just letting you know that this week's episode is sponsored by Favor Inc. Favor is a statewide family-led nonprofit 501c3 organization that is committed to empowering families as advocates and partners in improving educational and health outcomes for our children. Favor is the Connecticut state organization of the Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health. Favor offers a single place for families with children who have medical, mental, emotional, and behavioral health challenges to find information, assistance, and training. For more information on Favor, please go to Favor's website at favor-ct.org. And I can say personally that we do use Favor for support groups, and we're very grateful for this partnership. Now on to this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Chronicles. My name is Sarah, and today I am here with Lauren Fonvielle. She is an energy healer, an integrative energy practitioner, and a secondary family caregiver to her mom. Hi, Lauren. How are you today?
Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk to you. Energy healing is kind of a new passion of mine, as I recently got my Reiki Master attunement. So I really, have found a special sense of peace and calming in energy healing for myself. And I'm just really thrilled to have you on to talk about your techniques, because I know that they're different than the Reiki techniques. And would you like to further introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, sure. So some people might be like, well, what's an integrative energy practitioner? So really what that means is I use a variety of different healing modalities when I work with my clients, and it's all about helping them to feel better from the inside out. And, I know today we're going to be talking a lot about EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, but I am also a Reiki practitioner, and I utilize sound healing and meditation. And I'm always encouraging people to just, explore whatever intrigues them, because different modalities work for different people, and it's all about figuring out what's going to make you feel the best.
Absolutely. And I just love that. And I think that that's so beautiful. We're also pretty big into the sound healing here, into the binaural beats and things like that. I use that on my children at night at, bedtime and stuff like that. I'm taking a sound healing class just so I can learn more about it. So, it's really interesting to talk to you and talk about how this benefits caregivers. So do you want to talk a little bit about how, why you think energy healing is so great for caregivers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, we are all energy, right? And it's caregiving is challenging, and you deal with a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of the time we, as caregivers, we can suppress our emotions because we don't like feeling sad, or we don't like feeling frustrated or overwhelmed. And so we suppress those emotions and we distract ourselves with something else in the short term. And in the long term, that can have a really negative impact on our own health and well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it. And so taking the time to really acknowledge how you're feeling and sit with your emotions is really important, because the definition of emotion is energy in motion, and our emotions need to move. They want to move. They don't want to be stagnant and stuck in our bodies. And energy work helps to get everything moving so that you can feel better and not feel stuck and overwhelmed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And do you mind sharing with my audience what exactly EFT tapping is?
Yes. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it is a modality that really helps you do just that. It helps you find freedom from your emotions. And the way that it works is that you gently tap on certain points of the body while simultaneously acknowledging the emotions that you're feeling. And it's similar to acupuncture, but instead of using needles, we are using acupressure on certain points. And the points that we tap on are the end points of the meridians, and the meridians are how energy moves through the body. So just like how our blood moves through our blood vessels and our veins, our energy moves through the meridians. And so by tapping on it, you can get that energy to start moving. And there's also a lot of science behind it. And tapping on these points points has been shown to reduce the amount of cortisol pumping through the body, and cortisol is the stress hormone. So, and that's been shown to reduce it by up to 43%, which is a really, really big number. And so if you can have a tool that helps you to calm the body, that's going to then calm the mind so you can think more clearly, and then you're going to feel better. So, and it's this practice of really allowing yourself to sit with the emotions that you're feeling, because a lot of the time we don't allow ourselves to do that. And it's an important part of the healing process for sure.
Thank you so much. And I have tried the EFT tapping before. Like, we talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the episode, like the pre-air stuff. I have tried it before and I found it very calming. It's something I need to practice more. However, I'm always afraid that I'm going to do it wrong. Is that possible?
Yeah, there's no wrong way of tapping. A lot of questions I get are, if I don't like a point, can I skip over it? 100%. Yes, you shouldn't be tapping on any part that, feels uncomfortable, or how many times should I be tapping on each point? It doesn't really matter. It's just learning where the points are. And then, the other challenging part for people that are new to this is figuring out what words to say while they're tapping on the points. And the real thing to keep in mind there is just to be using words that really resonate with you. Sometimes when there's lots of videos out there of tapping videos that you can tap along with, which can be very helpful for beginners that, are learning the points and don't really know what to say. However, sometimes when you're tapping along with a video, the words that the practitioner is using is not necessarily the same words that you would be using. So there can be a little bit of a disconnect there. So I always encourage people, sure, use those videos, and maybe you find one that you really do resonate with, but it's very helpful to, really just tune into yourself, notice how you're feeling, what your thoughts are, and put words to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the words that you say, they're kind of like mantras, right? Kind of like I am safe, or like I feel.
Not necessarily. You actually can start with, the negative, right? So you can tune into the emotion that you're feeling. So let's say for caregivers, you're feeling really frustrated, or frustrated. Let's just say that. And so you could use a statement like, even though I'm really frustrated, I love and accept myself. And then when we tap on each of the points, you would say, I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I feel really frustrated. And at the same time, you'd be focusing in on your body, maybe noticing, is there a part of your body that you feel like you're carrying this frustration? Do you feel it in a specific area? Do other thoughts come to mind? Is it something frustrating, something in particular that's really frustrating you at this moment? And then, maybe it's you're frustrated because you're having difficulty finding in-home care or something, right? And so then you could say, get as specific as possible with whatever comes up for you. And so tapping, you start with the negative and you focus on how you're really feeling. And then you're slowly going to move towards that better feeling thought. So you're going to tap what we say, like tap down the intensity. So if you're feeling on a scale of 0 to 10, level 10 of frustration, you're going to stay with that emotion until it's kind of moved down on the scale to something that's a more manageable number. And then maybe the thought comes, it is, even though I'm really frustrated, I know I've been frustrated before and it's going to be okay. Right. Like maybe that's the next best thought. Not that like, I'm not frustrated anymore. Life is great. I'm happy, right? Like that isn't necessarily maybe realistic in one session, but like hopefully you can get to that next best thought and slowly move the needle in that way. And so it really, really meets you where you are. Because sometimes with the positive affirmations, while they can be nice, right? But if it doesn't really resonate with you, if you're feeling really frustrated and then you're saying, I'm calm and I'm at ease, and you're really not, right? Like it just, it's like lip service. And so it's more important to really put words to how you're actually feeling. And then hopefully eventually you will get to that place where you do feel calmer, you do feel more at ease, but it's a progression.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you addressing that because that's so important sometimes in, like you said, saying I am happy when you're really like about to scream
Mhm.
or cry is just not, it's lying to yourself, and it kind of undervalues your feelings and your emotions, and it kind of takes away from what you feel, and sometimes it's okay to feel. So I really love how this technique allows you to accept the negative
Mhm.
and lower and taper it down, as you said, to a positive. I think that's so fantastic. um so can anybody do this anywhere, or is this something like?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it anywhere. You might, if you're new to this, I always tell people, like, you might not want to, be, if you're like at Target and you're waiting in line and you're all having all this anxiety because you're waiting, you pick the wrong line, right? I always pick the wrong line. And you're feeling really anxious. You might not want to be standing there tapping yourself on the top of the head and having people give you the side eye, right? But there are some additional points besides the points that are part of the regular protocol that are a little bit more discreet. So you can, some of those points are at the tips of the finger. So if you squeeze at the bed of the nail on either side of any finger, right, you could do it, just move from finger to finger and just squeezing. I'm using my index finger and my thumb to squeeze on the pinky of my other opposite hand at the bed of the nail, and you just squeeze on each finger. What that's doing is sending that message to the amygdala and reducing the amount of cortisol in the body to help calm you. So even though those are typically not like the regular points that you would tap on, they're a little bit more discreet, so that you can be doing it out in public and maybe not feel not feel so weird about it.
Or if like a kid is anxious in school, or if you're at work
Yeah.
or something like that, and your boss just put another task on your desk on top of the 10 you have from before, or whatever situation it is. I would imagine that the finger points would be something anybody could do. A nurse at a nurse's station who's just lost her favorite patient could,
Right.
after taking a minute, could definitely do this and not have that stigma of, oh, what are you doing?
Right.
It'd be nice to be able to just use these techniques in public whenever we needed to without stigma, but the world's not there
And you
yet.
can. I mean, you can if you really, if you don't care, you totally can. I mean, I have definitely been on a plane before and seen people tapping. So, and then it's, strikes up a conversation. Oh, hey, like I
Yeah.
do that too. So I have seen it done out in public. It's not like super common, but there are people out there who do it.
That's awesome that you do that you acknowledge it and say, hey, it's all good. Like, tap
Mm-hmm.
away in front of me. It helps. I think that's phenomenal. So is there like a time where you should avoid this practice? Like,
Um, I don't think necessarily
maybe
when.
not while driving, but
Okay, yeah, not when you need to be focused on something else, for sure. But there's not really a wrong time of day or anything like that. It's really just whenever you can fit it into your schedule. I always encourage people to tap on a regular basis, or as much of a regular basis as possible, just because then it makes it that much easier to implement in those times of stress, when you're more used to using the tool. Because if you don't utilize it on a regular basis and then you're starting to feel the anxiety or the stress, you're probably a little bit less likely to implement it in the moment. But no, I don't think there's really like a wrong time to do it or anything like that.
awesome. Thank you so much for that. Now, do you need like to see like a tapping specialist or a doctor or licensed therapist to learn this technique, or, you know, is it,
So you
can you
can
learn it
definitely,
from there?
yeah, I mean, you can definitely learn the points on your own. You can go and look on YouTube. Like I said, I have tons of videos on there if you want to just like see where the points are and stuff. What I would say is working with a practitioner is really helpful if you're someone that has trauma in their past. And I mean, the majority of us do have trauma of some sort, whether it's big T trauma or little trauma. But if you knowingly have trauma from your past that is impacting your day-to-day life now, I would definitely recommend working with a practitioner to help you kind of peel back the layers and get to the root of some of what's going on. And then if you are someone that, needs a little help with it, right? Like I said in the beginning, like it can be challenging to come up with the words. So working with a practitioner for a while can be really helpful in helping you to better understand how to do it and learning some of the nuanced techniques that can really help you to do this work. And, it depends like how deep you want to go. If you're just someone who like, okay, if I'm feeling anxious and I just want to tap on one of these points, just even one of them, and take some deep breaths and feel calmer, and that's enough for you, like that's okay. But if you're someone who even maybe you start to do this on your own and maybe old memories start to pop up and you're not really sure what to do with that, or if you're someone who has, I've worked with clients that have physical pain, because a lot of the time there are emotional contributors to physical pain, and sometimes they don't even know where to start, and so working with a practitioner in that circumstance can be really helpful too, just to guide you through the practice, to hold space for you. There's a lot of power in that, and as a practitioner myself, I see a practitioner for that very reason, because it's such a helpful process to have somebody guiding you through it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And what kind of training do practitioners go through?
Yeah. Well, you do want to make sure that you are seeing someone who is certified. There are lots of different types of certifications out there. I would highly recommend EFT International. That's where my certification is through. And because it's some pretty intense studies that go on, whereas I think there's probably like something like this in every field, where you can go and take some sort of like online class for an hour and they'll say that you're certified, but you really haven't had the true certification, right? So I would say, if you're looking to find somebody, you could go to EFT International, and there's a whole list of certified practitioners and at the different levels that they certify people through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you mind going over the technique with us and in what points, and
yeah, sure.
Just doing a run through?
Yeah, we could do that. So the first point is on the pinky side of the hand. And this is where we do what's called the setup statement. So I'm tapping with my right hand on the left pinky side of my left hand because I'm a righty, but you can tap with your left hand on the the right pinky, of the opposite hand. So it's totally dependent on what feels most comfortable to you. And so when we do the setup statement, we do the script that they typically use is, even though I'm feeling blank, I love and accept myself, right? So even though I'm feeling frustrated, I love and accept myself. Some people have problems with saying I love and accept myself. They're not comfortable saying that. So then we can do what's called flexing the statement. So you could say, even though I'm frustrated, that's how I feel right now. That's just how it is, right? Even though I'm frustrated, I'm honoring this emotion. And so we say a sentence 3 times on this pinky side of the hand, and then we're going to move to the next point, which is at the top of the head. And so we keep it simple, and we can just tune into whatever that emotion is. So I'm so frustrated. And I'm having an open palm right in the crown of my head. You can also bring the fingertips together if that feels good to you. You can do it with both hands. You can just do it with one. Again, there's no really wrong way of doing this. Then we're going to come to the start of the eyebrows. So I like to tap both eyebrows at the same time, but you don't have to. You could just use one hand and do it on one side of your face. A lot of people will tell me they feel uneven, though, if they don't do both sides. And then we're going to come to the side of the eyes. And again, on each of these points, we would just be tuning into how we're feeling and saying, I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. And then we're going to go under the eyes. And as we're tapping on these points, I invite you to join us and tap along with us. Just notice how it feels. Notice if there's certain points that you enjoy tapping on. Maybe there's others that you're not so fond of. And you can just keep that in mind the next time you're feeling overwhelmed, and you can go to tap on these points. Okay, so we're going to move from under the eyes to under the nose, right where the nose and the lip come together, that like 90-degree angle there. And then we're going to move to the chin crease, so between the bottom lip and the tip of the chin. And then we're going to come to the collarbone. So it's really the fleshy area under the collarbone on both sides. So you can use one hand on either side. Or you can bring one hand to the center of your chest, really spread the index finger and thumb as far apart as you can, and you'll be tapping on both points at the same time with one hand. And then we're going to go under the arm. So for women, it's like the center of the bra strap on the side of the body. And for men, it's about 2.5 inches from the armpit. And you can do it on one side, and then you could do it on the other side, under the other arm. You could just cross your arms and kind of give yourself a hug and tap on both points at the same time. And then the last point is between the pinky and the ring finger on the back of the hand. And so I like to tend to bring my hand to my chest and then tap on the between the pinky and the ring finger. And that's it. That's what's called a round of tapping. And so as we tap on each of those points, you would just be saying, I'm so frustrated, or I'm so sad, and noticing how that feels, noticing what thoughts come up. Maybe a memory comes up. If a memory comes up, even if you don't think it's related to whatever you're currently experiencing, maybe it's a memory from childhood, right? And, you know, our cognitive mind tries to make sense of all this and say, you know, that's not related to this, that's random. But these memories come up for a reason, and then it would be something to explore. So if a memory from childhood came up, you would describe what that is, and then you would use those words when you're tapping on the points. And so it really is this process of connecting the dots, and you never really know where that next dot is going to lead you. But that's the beauty of this work, and it can be really gentle. You don't have to, you know, dive into any past event that causes you to get upset, or any sort of traumatic event from the past. You can really approach it in a gentle way so that it's not causing you, you know, angst. And again, the whole purpose is to really just tune into how you're feeling, listening to your body, and healing from the inside out.
Awesome. No, and thank you so much for doing that. And for my audience, I was going along with Lauren as she was going through the different points. But as we were doing it, a few things, I came up with a few questions in my head that I didn't have written down. So my first question is, how hard do you tap on yourself?
Yeah. Gentle, right? So you don't want to be like hurting yourself or like, you know, really pounding on yourself. Just a gentle little tap. Yeah.
So nice and soft.
Yeah. So like, I guess I would compare it like if there was someone who you wanted to tap on their shoulder to get their attention, you know, just gentle like that.
And then my next question is, how long does a round of tapping usually take? Give or take.
I guess a couple of minutes. It really depends because sometimes you want to stay on one point for a longer amount of time for whatever reason, you know, maybe it just feels right in the moment. But I would say generally a couple of minutes.
Okay. And then about how many times should you try to tap on each point, or is there no rules with that?
I think the books probably say like 7 to 8 times. However, I really just stay on each point for each sentence and then move to the next. I don't think too much about it. Yeah, there's really no wrong way of doing it.
Okay. And if you're not ready to make a sentence, to recognize where you're feeling, maybe you're just at a point where you're just feeling so many things and you're just not there yet. Is it okay to just do the tapping?
Yeah, you can, or you could just put words to that. I'm feeling so many things. I don't even know what to say. I'm feeling so many things. I don't know what to say. You use that, right? Like whatever comes up. But yeah, you can absolutely just do the tapping and breathing. And when you do this work, it's very common to have, you know, tears come. Maybe sometimes you find yourself giggling or you find yourself yawning. And these are all just signs that the energy is moving. It's a good thing. But if you find yourself getting emotional or upset about something, and it feels almost feels too overwhelming to be saying the words and tapping on the points, you can just tap and breathe until the intensity comes down and you feel comfortable talking again. So it's definitely helpful to do that for sure.
Awesome. Now, is this a technique you can use on, a child or a person? A lot of times us caregivers, we're caring for people. We might not be super agitated, but they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Your neurodivergent child or grandma with Alzheimer's, if they tolerate it, is this a technique you could use on them?
So if they're comfortable with tapping, you could of course like teach them how to tap and do it. But if somebody's agitated or in an irritated state, they're probably not going to want to be tapping themselves, and they're probably not going to want you tapping on them either. I wouldn't recommend that. However, there is something called surrogate tapping. So you can tap on yourself for someone else. So you could tap, let's say, about the situation. So maybe like how you're feeling about the fact that they're having a bad day, or maybe that they're being mean, or the things that they're saying are upsetting you, right? So you could tap on how it makes you feel. You could tap, then you could tap as if you're talking to the person. Obviously you wouldn't want to be doing this like necessarily in front of them, but then you could, use words putting to them how maybe it's making you feel, talking to them. And then sometimes if it feels right, you can even tap as if you are the person, right? And so in doing so, it can bring some things to light. And I think what happens there and why that can really help is that, when we shift our own energy on something, right? If we're able to shift maybe from feeling so frustrated with our loved one to maybe just, wanting to send them love because that they're in pain or, they're unhappy, right? So if we can shift our energy about the situation, then I do think that impacts how, how they're receiving our energy. And then oftentimes it impacts like how they are responding to us. And so it can make a shift in that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because there was just so much, there's so many questions on this for me personally. And I know my audience is going to come back with questions, but I just love that, that this is a platform for getting this information out there, because I could see this being a technique to help somebody, at least one of my listeners, if not many of them, hopefully many of them. And again, I know I've used this on myself. It's a technique I have to practice more, because when I'm in that moment of stress, I'm not ready to do it yet. You know what I mean? You're just not ready to do it if you don't practice those coping strategies before you get to that elevated point. And that's in line with any coping strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. You got to have the tools in the toolbox, and then, know how to use them and be ready and prepared to use them for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with my audience in regards to tapping?
I would just say that if you're listening to this and you think, oh, that sounds really weird, that's so strange. Why would I tap on myself to feel better? I know that I felt that way when I was first introduced to this. I thought that the whole idea of tapping to reduce my anxiety or tapping to reduce my physical pain was just kind of this like woo-woo out there crazy idea. But because I was under so much stress and having so much anxiety, I was at a point, well, who cares? I'm just going to give it a try. Whatever, I'll try it, right? When I was introduced to it, it was in a group setting, and I was like, sure, I'll give it a whirl. And I did, and I noticed a shift. I'm like, oh, this is weird. I do feel a little bit better. That is odd. And that was enough for me to continue to want to explore it. And so I would just say that if you're listening to this, you're maybe a little intrigued, you think it's a little weird, but you don't know, maybe it could help. Give it a try. There's no harm in trying. There are no negative side effects associated with this. And give yourself that gift, because you never know what that could lead to. And you deserve to feel good. And, caregivers are doing so much, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves too. And this is this is a tool that can help you to do this and show up, show up as your best self for your loved ones, you know, because sometimes it's like, I don't even have the time. I don't have the time to take care of myself. I'm so busy taking care of, you know, my loved one. I can't like prioritize myself. And so if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your loved one, because it is going to benefit them. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that would be my 2 words of a little
Yeah.
bit of advice.
No, that's okay. I love it. I'm here for all of it. And you know, like you said, the stigma of it initially, the oh, this is kind of weird. Sometimes weird is good. Sometimes what we're doing doesn't always work in the moment, and sometimes we got to try something else.
Yeah.
And so, you
And
know, I just really like that.
And that's when a lot of my clients come to me, is like after they've tried other things and somehow they've come across tapping, whether it's like, you know, in the documentary Heal, they talk about tapping, or, you know, have come to one of my workshops or something like that. And they're like, all right, I'm going to give this a try because all these other things haven't worked. And let's see if we can, you know, move the needle doing this. So, you know, that's I feel like that's like really normal, because if you get to a point where you're so overwhelmed and you're so frustrated that nothing else is working and you're in pain, you're willing to try anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So my final question for you, or my second to final question, what, besides tapping, what is your favorite self-care technique?
Hmm. Well, I really love to just go on walks and be really mindful on the walks, like, you know, meditative walks, I guess. And take in the environment and the small things that are so beautiful in this world.
That's awesome. I love taking walks too. We love hiking.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that we've discovered we could do with our kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them tend to enjoy just moving, especially my youngest. He has to be in a harness because he's an elopement risk, but he doesn't mind it, and he'll just walk. We did
Yeah.
a 3 mile hike with him not that long ago, and
Nice.
he just did it. He walked the whole time. It was sweet. Um, but I want to thank you so much. Oh, actually, I want to ask you really quick, where can my audience find you?
Yeah, so if you are curious about learning more, I do have a free masterclass that's available. And so you can go to my website, which is mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass. And that will give you a whole lot of more info about EFT, the science behind it, and let you have like a real tapping experience as well. So you can find me there. And then I'm also on Instagram. And if you just look up Mind Shift with Lauren, I should pop up. My actual Instagram name is Lauren Nicole, but it should pop up if you type in Mind Shift with Lauren.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, Lauren. I really appreciated you being here and spending the time today and going over the technique with me and my audience, because I know that this is going to be really beneficial for a lot of people, and information that just, I don't feel like a lot of caregivers are aware of this technique. So I just think that that's great. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
thank you. And to my audience, if definitely check out Lauren's website. We will have it linked in our show notes. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments or feedback on this episode, you can email us at caregiverchroniclespod@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Caregiver Chronicles, Twitter, Caregiver Chron 1, Instagram, Caregiver Chronicles 2. And if you really liked what Lauren was saying, or somebody who could benefit from the EFT tapping, please share the show with them. Share it with a friend, like it, give us a rating and review. We really appreciate that, and we'll see you next week.